Thank you very much for coming on to the Granite Zero podcast.
No worries, Tommo. My pleasure. Looking forward to having a chat.
Oh, definitely. And as most of my listeners are aware, I am a United fan. So actually having a former United player is actually a bit of a dream come true, really. There's so many that I've tried to get on before, and scheduling conflicts and things like that. They're all like, "Nah, I can't do it." But no, totally appreciate all your time.
No worries again. No worries at all. Good to have a chat with a United fan. That's for sure. Not going too well at the minute. Hopefully, things will
Yeah.
pick up in the new year.
Yeah, it's one thing I said. So my brother's an Arsenal fan, and my brother-in-laws are all Arsenal fans as well. So they're giving it all big licks at the minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I just go, well, it's about time that I had this period in my life. So growing up throughout the 90s and obviously the noughties and then a little bit of the tens, I was spoiled. I would literally watch Man United win everything. So I'm entitled to have a bit of banter.
No, yeah, 100%. Hopefully, it's been a while though, and it's left. It's not been as successful as we would have hoped, but it all works in circles, doesn't it? I'm sure we'll be back
Yeah,
up
definitely.
there before.
Definitely. And one thing that I've really noticed, and it's really it gets to me a little bit, is the fact that the style of football actually changed as well. I know all managers are slightly different, but I remember Man United being a joy to watch, even when it, like, especially the end of the 90s and in through the noughties. They're never say die attitude that the teams had.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, come on, you're wearing the Manchester United kit. You should want to. You've got 76,000 people watching you play football, and you're just strolling around. That's what really fucks me off. Pardon my French.
Yeah, I think the game has changed a lot. Obviously, it's a lot different to how it was back when them incredible teams that you talk about in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then the late noughties as well. And I think it is sort of the game in general probably hasn't got them characters as much as it
Yeah,
had
definitely.
then, and that's something that is sort of missing within football a lot at the moment, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a trip back. So, was United the first call that you had? Because you came through the youth system, did you not, or have I just made that up?
Yeah. So I grew up in Cambridgeshire, so a little village in Cambridge. Sort of done really well at football as a young kid. Scored a lot of goals, believe it or not. Got sort of scouted by a few different teams. Ended up going on trial, were sort of the local ones at Cambridge United, Norwich, Ipswich. Before ending up signing when I was 13 for Arsenal, which sort of saw me train at Arsenal once a week at an indoor place at Highbury, join to the stadium and play for them on a Sunday. At the same time, I was playing for the Cambridge schools team, so my area team, on a Saturday, and again scored a lot of goals. And that's where Man United first watched me play, invited me up for a trial, travelled up to Manchester, one school holidays, and then absolutely fell in love with a place and signed there as a schoolboy.
That's fucking awesome. That's what it's those type of things. I was like, I wish I had that little bit extra at football. Because football has always been my love. It's always been a passion. I've never been the greatest footballer. Been all right. I played a decent sort of level, sort of West Midlands level. But having someone to come and watch you and go, yeah, even if for any team, but someone, especially during that time.
Yeah.
So that would have been that. Obviously, what was that? Late 90s.
So that would have been sort of mid 90s, sort of 94, 95 when I signed there when I was 14. And then until I left school at 16, I'd used to just get the train up there on a Friday, finish school early on a Friday, travel up to Manchester, come home on the Sunday, play for my age group team or in the A and B team on a Saturday morning, and then a Sunday morning come home. And then when I left school at 16, I moved up into digs and started my YT, it was called back then.
That's fucking awesome. That's awesome. Because obviously that would have been just after the famous class of 92. And then in steps Luke Chadwick.
Well, didn't quite have the same, not quite the same impact as the class of 92, but I think at that time, sort of all the best kids in the country were signing for United because people could see that they were given their opportunity. I think massive role models to all us young players were the likes of
Yeah.
Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, the Neville brothers, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, and it made you feel like this is a place to be. You might get your opportunity. Obviously, I did get a little bit of an opportunity, not as much as them players who had glittering careers there, but to have sort of played 1 minute for Manchester United was probably more than I ever dreamt
Yeah,
I'd
of
do
course.
growing up. So it was an incredible experience being at the club at such a successful time as well.
Yeah. Did you feel a lot of pressure, or were you just still in that sort of teenage bubble where you're like, I'm just playing football for Man United? Or did you feel like, I've got all these players that came before me? I think United hold the record of having a youth player since like 1970 something up until now. They've got at least one youth player playing. That's a
Yeah,
hell of a record to have. And then you've got, as you said, you're 16 years old, you're coming through the ranks, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, I
yeah.
could
I
get an
think
opportunity.
like when I first went up there as a schoolboy at 14, 15, I was incredibly sort of shy, incredibly introverted, and was obviously buzzing that Man United wanted me to go up there, but at the same time quite scared and nervous as well. But the second that I got there, I'd never experienced anything like it. The environment and culture, you were made to feel so welcome. Everyone seemed so pleased to see you. Everyone was so happy to be at the club, and I just fell in love with it. So in terms of feeling pressure, I never felt that as a schoolboy, as a youth team player sort of coming through. I think you feel it a little bit more when you start training with the first team. When you're
Yeah.
18 years old, you feel a bit nervous, feel a bit of pressure, but that's part of the game, really. I think in terms of my early time of playing a few games for the club, we were winning most weeks. I was having a decent enough impact when I was coming on as a sub most of the time. So it was sort of riding the crest of a wave to a certain extent in that first season when I was in and around the first team. So in terms of prayer, I think you've got that innocence of youth, like you mentioned before, where
Yeah.
you don't feel it that much. You're just sort of in a bubble and you're just
Yeah.
along for the ride, really.
Yeah, I get that. It's as though you're still in that, yeah, as you said, like the bubble. You're still in the bubble of, I'm playing the sport I love. I've been picked by one of the best teams in the country. I'm as us in the military would say in a tongue in cheek way, I'm living the dream, but you literally were living the dream. What was it like getting that call to say that you were getting called up?
100%. Dude, when I sort of signed there as a schoolboy, like I was absolutely buzzing. Then obviously moved up there full time. I wasn't probably one of the best players in that sort of under 16 team when we were getting decided whether we were going to get a YTS or get released. So I wasn't definitely going to get one. I didn't have a professional contract there. So when I got that was a massive sort of high. And then when I signed my first professional contract, it was like one of them where you couldn't believe it. I was sort of didn't have much money growing up. Obviously weren't sort of poor or anything like that,
Yeah,
but
I get
weren't
you.
rich, and was earning 34 pound a week, I think it was, as a
Oi,
YTS.
oi!
And yeah, signed first professional contract and wages went up to £500 a week, and I thought I was an absolute millionaire. I couldn't believe how much money they were giving me to play football.
Yeah,
So yeah, the feeling of sort of signing a contract was massive to sort of get that as a young player.
yeah, definitely. And then obviously you've gone from signing that first professional contract, you're in and amongst the team. What was it like being around those sort of those players? So for example, my hero is Roy Keane. I love
Yeah.
Roy Keane. And obviously he was the captain at that time, the extension of Sir Alex. And having just those two around, I can't even put it into words what that would feel like. I don't even know what it'd be like to even meet them. I think I'd go clam up and go all funny.
Yeah, I think what happened in my case, I went on loan when I finished in the youth team to
Yeah.
Belgium. So I went and played for Royal Antwerp and was out there for about 7 months, sort of playing there. Then got called back to Manchester, and that's when I was put in the first team squad. And I remember sort of the first training session, maybe a little bit sloppy, gave the ball away a couple of times, and Roy Keane went absolutely mental at me, shouting at me, calling me every name under the sun. And I thought, flipping heck, I weren't sort of expecting that. But then after the session, he come and spoke to me and explained the reason he done that, because like if they're going to win trophies, they're going to win games every week, everyone's standards have got to be high. So
Yeah,
whether it was me that was giving the ball away being sloppy, or David Beckham or Ryan Giggs, he would be on them because he wanted the standards sky high, and he was sort of the ultimate captain in terms of his
yeah,
standards were on it every day, put everything into every training session. And because he done that as a captain, everyone else done it, and that's where the standards were so
yeah,
high. Obviously, that came from Sir Alex, the manager, as well, and it was like such an incredible, like intense culture and environment that you were part of, and it was a winning culture, obviously because of the success they had at that time.
yeah. That I like to see that, and as we sort of said at the start, football has changed. You don't tend to see those types of captains anymore. Well, we'll take Bruno for example. He likes a piss and a moan while he's playing. He's very technically gifted. He's a uber talented player. But I
Yeah,
look at him and I'm like, you're not the captain that I see. As a United fan growing up, I was spoiled again. Robson, Bruce, Keane, Cantona. Even Cantona to some extent wasn't a shouter and he led by example on the pitch. I genuinely watched a highlight of him from the Charity Shield in 96, sorry, because he didn't play in 99. That was a lie. So 96 against Newcastle. And I sent it to my buddy and I just went, I know it's only the Charity Shield. I went, but just look how good Eric Cantona was.
yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, yeah, because and it winds me up these days with everybody. Everybody is fixated on stats. It's
No,
like
yeah.
if you look, even down to if you look at Zidane's stats when he's probably playing, his stats wouldn't be like all singing, all dancing because he's trying to win the game. He's trying to pass forwards. He's doing all this, but players seem to be transfixed on stats these days. And you know, hearing what you were saying there about Keno and how intense, and I'm doing it on the training pitch. You see me doing it. This is the level I want you at. I'm leading by example because this is how we should be playing. And that must have just like sat with you the whole of your career, really.
Oh, without a doubt. I think the lessons learned at Manchester United are lessons that I'll never forget, that have stood me in good stead going away throughout my football career, post football career. And I think that all came from sort of the manager and sort of what he expected within that football club. And it was all about that. It was more the life skills that you learnt there that I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
more so than the football skills and what was expected of being a Manchester United player, and having sort of humility, being honest, being hardworking. And that's what the whole club was built around at that time. And I think the players within that squad sort of were an extension, like you said about Roy Keane, but I think all of those players were an extension of the manager and what he wanted, as well as the coaching staff and everyone there as well. And I think what was so different back then was Sir Alex ran the whole club. Like
yeah, yeah,
everyone would want to run through a brick wall for Sir Alex because of the person that he was and the way that he treated you. And it was the same with it. Speak to the kit men, the dinner ladies with the same respect. He'd speak to Ryan Giggs or David
yeah,
Beckham, and that like everyone wanted to be on his team, and sort of he was the leader, and you recognise that. I think that's changed to a certain extent. For example, when I went up on trial at 14 years old, I was up there for a week, played a game before I came home. When I got home, my mum picked me up from the train station, and Sir Alex had phoned her up and asked if I'd
Jesus.
signed for the club. And like when you hear that, there's only one place you.
Well, yeah, yeah,
It wasn't just me; he'd do that for everyone. I've been as a first team player at Carrington. There'd be a group of under 12, under 13 academy players, and Sir Alex would come in and know every one of their names, know a little detail about them. And it was that attention to detail on the human being more so than the
yeah,
talented footballer that got everyone wanting to pull in the same direction. And whatever organisation you're in, whatever industry you're in, if everyone's pulling in the same direction, you're going to
yeah.
be incredibly successful.
Definitely, and you can sort of see where that's lost now. Like even down to with Ten Hag, where he's not taking any shit from players, for example, for Jadon Sancho, for example. And people have forgotten that he did a lot for Jadon in terms of sending him off to the Netherlands to help with his mental health and things like that. And that's all lost. It's like, well, no, he kicked him out of the team. I was like, no, we didn't though, did he? He dropped him because he wasn't training properly. And then it's all escalated. And it's like, I, obviously being spoiled, as we said, I look back and what Sir Alex used to drop players if they weren't training correctly, or if they've spoke back to him or whatever. Like, before Beckham left to Madrid, he was dropped several times for attitude and things like that, and things that Sir Alex didn't like. Maybe it's a different time because of social media and things like that, but you would never go back. Even now, in like my regular job, you don't talk back to the manager if he's made a decision that is vital for the team, for work or whatever. You don't come back at him like that. You like on social media or whatever. You come and have a meeting. It might be a one-way conversation, but you come and have a meeting. You don't.
Yeah.
I just think in this day and age with social media and things like that, it all gets completely blown out of proportion, and it can actually go onto a next sort of thing I would like to talk to you about in a second. But obviously, everybody is now in contact with players, and they think they can say they can say whatever they want. Now, the reason why I say that sort of comes into the next part is because obviously you had a lot of shit when you were coming up, if you don't mind me talking about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and it was something that affected me like really negatively, and I was probably sort of going into football, being a Manchester United player, probably something that I wasn't completely expecting. Even when I moved up there, I knew that it was going to be really hard to get into the first team, and when it happened, probably rather naively just thought it was all about football. And when sort of the experiences and challenges that I went through were probably nothing to do with football, and that's what I found incredibly hard, and found that it really did affect me in a negative way, because I didn't know how to defend myself. I could defend myself. If someone said I was rubbish at football, fair enough. That's sort of what I'm doing. I'm putting myself out there playing football. But when it was more about my appearance, I didn't really know sort of how to deal with it, and suffered in silence really, and never
I bet
spoke about it because I was so embarrassed and ashamed that that I felt the way that I felt.
Yeah, I can actually like sympathise with that. So growing up myself, I was always I was quite slight. I put on quite a bit of weight when I actually hit puberty, which was good. I was always very small. I had quite mousy features, big ears, big teeth. When I was hitting puberty, spotty, all that sort of stuff, and I used to get quite. I didn't really see it as bullying when I was a kid, because it was like, oh, it's kids being kids. But yeah, I was picked on a lot for my appearance, and I was like, this is fucking. Like now, I'm like, well, if someone says anything to me now, I'll defend myself. But back then I was like, ugh. Especially playing football as well. I actually had to basically formulate a different persona when I played football, because I'm only 5'6" as well, so I was 5'6", skinny at the time. I was like, well, people are going to target me. I'm going to have a bit of a persona here of not taking any shit on the football pitch.
Yeah,
and that lasted with me even to now. I still don't take any shit, but I'm a lot bigger now, so people bounce off me. So that's even better. But that was just a handful of kids. It must have been awful having it from thousands of fans. And not only that, I believe it wasn't it They Think It's All Over used to
so I think
you as well.
That's what was the thing. Like, although obviously not nice to hear when you're in a football stadium, that was never that big an issue for me, because that's what I love doing. Whether people
and obviously you were winning at the time as well.
And just being on the football pitch. So obviously it's not nice, but it was more sort of like you at school. I had teeth that stuck out, spotty face. People had sort of taken the mickey out of me, but I could defend myself, say something back to them. I think where I really struggled with the stuff in the media, in the newspapers, on the TV, was I just felt completely alone, and I couldn't defend myself. I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could say, and felt in my mind the whole sort of world, millions of people that were watching the show or reading stuff about me were laughing at me, and it felt so sort of, I just couldn't. I was so embarrassed about it, but I would
I get you.
never say anything about it. So it got to the point where I wouldn't want to go out the house, because in my mind I just thought everyone was laughing at me, and in reality it wasn't the case. But I just built it up so much, and it was like a really tough time.
Yeah, it must have been, and as you said, you're probably building it up more than it was, and you want people to be talking about how you played on Saturday or midweek in the Champions League or in the FA Cup or whatever, but they're like, "Oh no, did you hear what the joke they said on? They think it's all over." It's like, geez, fucking hell. And I get it. It also does like a bit of a circle. It's a joke, mate. You're supposed to take it as a joke. It's like, but sometimes they're just not funny. Do you know what I mean?
I think it was the fact that it was sort of a joke. It was sort of schoolboy humour. If it, like, don't get me wrong, as a kid growing up, I watched the show and they were probably saying stuff about other people, and I would have laughed a lot myself. But it was more the fact that I just didn't know how to deal with it, and because it was sort of that schoolboy banter, I didn't understand why it made me. I thought there was something wrong with me because it hurt me so much, and the reason for that was just being unable to defend myself, and just think in my mind the only reason people know anything about me is because of the way that I looked, and that was it really. And just the embarrassment and shame that brought inside myself made it sort of a really challenging sort of 6 months or whatever.
I bet. And of course, back then as well, it was at that sort of time where, well, even now it's still sort of frowned upon to talk about mental health issues and problems. But even back then, you'd be like, well, I'm not going to go to the gaffer and go, oh, I'm feeling a bit fucking down here. Someone's laughing at me.
No.
Like, I couldn't imagine knocking on Sir Alex's. I'm sure he'd have fucking brought you in and had a chat, but, you know, I couldn't imagine just knocking on his door.
Yeah, 100%.
And saying something like that.
It was one like where the sort of person that I was sort of very introverted, very quiet. It was never sort of in my makeup to talk about my feelings and how it was making me feel. I wouldn't even speak about it to my girlfriend, my mum, my dad, my family. I'd just, like I say, just suffer in silence. I'm pretty sure if I did bring it up to the club at Manchester United, I would have got support and been sort of able to bring it up.
Especially back then, as you said, it seemed like it was more of a family than a club
100%.
at that time. Where now, you know, nowadays at United, it seems like it's all going wrong, as we said. I think even Gary Neville mentioned the other day, I think it was on Sky Sports, he was forever telling players to go and sign for United. The fantastic culture that it has there. It's a brilliant place to grow up as a football player. And he's now saying, I wish I hadn't told some of these players that. And I was like, it's heartbreaking because obviously for me, living the way I did, I was like, I still love it. I would never change. I say to my missus all the time, she's like, why'd you put yourself through it? And I went, at the minute, I don't like Man United, but I love them still.
Exactly.
But obviously you moved about a bit club wise. You had a spell at the mighty West Ham as well.
Yeah.
That must have been a different culture.
Yeah. So in terms of sort of like coming away from United, got in the team, played a few games, then suffered a few injuries. Was told that there wasn't a pathway for me there, which is obviously hard to hear, but at the same time, I appreciated the honesty, and was like, it was never a wrench leaving United. I loved my time there, had an incredible time, but at the same time, knew that for me to play football or be a proper footballer, I had to go and find a journey elsewhere. Went on a couple of loans to Reading and Burnley. When I was at Reading, I worked under Alan Pardew was my manager, and then he signed me for West Ham. At the time, me and my girlfriend had just had our first baby, so I'm from Cambridge, so it meant I could move home, have the
closer,
back home where we had friends and family and whatnot, and like really loved it at West Ham. It was a proper football club. Obviously, Man United's on another level, but West Ham was a fantastic place to be. Incredible atmosphere at Upton Park. Sort of the games
I was going to say
there.
you played at the proper stadium as well.
Incredible. Sort of, but certainly, sort of got told the same as top clubs at United by the fans. If you weren't sort of pulling your weight and you weren't playing well, we were sort of told as a team, and like didn't have a brilliant season. The squad that we had, we probably should have won the league. We obviously had some brilliant players there at the time, but ended up going up in the playoffs back into the Premier League, which ended up being probably the worst thing that could happen for me, because then the club went out and signed some much more talented players than me, and it meant I was surplus to requirements. So I only had a season at West Ham, but I really enjoyed it. It was a proper football club.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Which was better to walk out to? Old Trafford or Upton Park? Coming out with the fans.
Always been like that's where I've been.
Good answer.
Yeah, obviously that was always the goal, to actually walk out there, and like Old Trafford. Don't like Upton Park was incredible. I'm very grateful I had the opportunity. Old Trafford is completely different. To play a game there is something that you only ever dream of.
I mean, for me, just going up to Manchester to go and watch. I was fortunate to watch quite a few games in the mid-90s and noughties. My dad used to be able to get tickets to the Champions League matches. So at the time, I didn't realise how a big a deal it was, being about 9 or 10. Still got all the programmes now. I've got all the programmes from the build up to the 99 actual treble winning season. I've got the programmes in there. Inter Milan, Barcelona. I went to watch all these games. At the time, I was like, oh, I'm just watching a game of football. I fucking love it. Now I'm like, I wish I'd like paid more attention. But even being in the stadium as a fan, I get goosebumps when the crowd starts cheering. So I can't even imagine walking out to 76,000, I think it is. That must be something else.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember my first time ever sort of coming on as a sub. It was probably about 2 minutes left against Middlesbrough in the Premier League. I think we won 1-0 or 2-1, and just sort of that feeling when you stood at the side of the pitch, desperate for the ball to go off. I'm thinking the ball's not going to go off, the ref's going to blow his full stop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get the chance to get on the pitch, but that feeling of walking on that pitch is like incredible. Even to play a youth team game there or whatever, it's so special walking out onto the Theatre of Dreams. That's certainly what it is.
Did you get to play in any of the really sort of close games where you could feel the crowd sort of lifting you up?
Yeah, I think it was always a little bit, like you say, you went to the Champions League game. It always felt a little bit more special in them Champions League games. Obviously, the Champions League was obviously it's still massive now, but it felt so different back then. It was so important. You could feel the importance of it. You could feel a slight change in the atmosphere. There was a little bit more edge to it because everyone was desperate to win that European Cup. So you certainly sort of noticed it in them European games, maybe a little bit more than the Premier League games on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah,
I bet. What was it like scoring your first goal then? I actually got the video clip, wasn't it, against Bradford? Was that your
Bradford?
First
yeah. I remember coming on in that game. We weren't playing particularly well, drawing 0-0 all at half time. I remember in the dressing room at half time, there was a bit of an argument between Roy Keane and Ryan Giggs. I think they had a bit of a go at each other. Then near the start of the second half, the manager sort of told me to get warmed up. And I went on soon after coming on. That their goalkeeper was Gary Walsh, the former United keeper, and he had an absolute stinker. And Teddy scored to make it 1-0. And then, probably about 10 minutes later, I made a run through the middle. Beckham sent me through. left foot, bottom corner. It was when the ball hit the net. I mean, I can't believe I sort of finished it so well because it was on my left foot. I weren't very strong with it, but it
Yeah.
was like a feeling that I'll never forget. Didn't really know what to do when I scored the goal. Sort of started running towards the crowd, celebrating, then turned round and then got embraced by my teammates. But yeah, it was something I'll definitely never forget
Yeah,
scoring
yeah,
a goal
definitely,
for Man United.
definitely, definitely. And one thing, I was going through some of the highlight clips when I was putting out the post to say that you were coming on, and there's a bit in the game where you nutmeg, I think it's the right fullback, and he takes you out afterwards. I was like, fuck it. Just that little bit of skill. You sort of get the ball and you do a little run, and he's coming at you, and it's like, whoop, have some of that, Megs, and he just fucking wipes you out. I was like, he's got a bit of skill. This old Chadders, he's got a bit of skill.
Yeah, I think that was more of a sort of a knock and run, use my pace, but it was
That's
always
that's exactly how I used to play before I started putting on the all weight.
yeah, but it was certainly very different in terms of some of the tackles that you'd receive back then had probably
Oh
been
yeah,
a red card these days, and how the game is now.
yeah, yeah. Again, the game's changing, and obviously you get. I saw some of these tackles. I remember. Yeah, I like to go back in time because obviously it's a bit more joyful for me being a United fan. And I watched some highlight things. I think I watched one game and it was mid-90s. It was United wearing their yellow and green kit
Yeah,
against Wimbledon. And the amount of times Cantona and Keane were walloped by fucking Vinnie Jones and all the other crazy gang. They were just going through them. I was like, these are all red cards.
yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy.
You just you just man up and get on with it. Definitely. You took you ended up going to MK Dons, wasn't it? That was the longest. Was that the longest you stayed at one club?
Yeah, so after I left West Ham, I went to Stoke. Then from Stoke to Norwich, and from Norwich to MK Dons. I think at the time I was absolutely buzzing. I had a good time at Stoke, but my family didn't really settle there, and we were looking to
Yeah.
get back towards the Cambridgeshire area. So when Norwich came in, it was like a dream move,
Oh
biggest
yeah, of
club
course.
in
Yeah, yeah.
Anglia, sort of travelling from home, but suffered a really quite serious injury in my debut, and after that I could never get myself fit. So going to MK Dons, I actually asked my agent to speak to them because it was so close to Cambridge. It was a 40-minute drive, and it was somewhere where I settled really well. It was a lovely place to go to play football. My children could come and watch me play in a nice stadium. It was sort of easy. Everything about it was nice, really. The chairman was a great guy. I worked with some great managers in my time there, including Paul Ince, who was
Yeah,
someone that
yeah.
I respected greatly and thought was a fantastic player. So it was great to play under him. Great teammates. So yeah, really enjoyed my time at MK Dons, where probably I was the most sort of settled throughout my career in both a sort of personal and professional side.
Yeah. So because Deli Ali came from MK Dons, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was he playing when you were there, or had you retired by then?
Yeah, so he was playing. He was probably the one that retired me, to be fair. When he came into the team, he was sort of an incredible talent. Started training with us at the we've been the first team when we were still at school, probably at 15, 16 years old. And I think it's plain to see the charisma, the attitude, to the athleticism, where like he was a great shape and size with great feet, great skills. He had the lot as a kid coming through and was an exceptional talent.
Yeah, it definitely was, and it's a shame that he had all those inner demons with his upbringing that he shared with was it Gary Neville he shared it with? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I like sort of
Um,
seeing that is obviously
yeah,
upsetting someone that you come up with and you had no idea, sort of
yeah, I kn-
knowing that
and
the past that he
I remember talking to a buddy of mine who's a Spurs fan, and I remember myself personally, even though I'm someone who suffers quite badly with mental health issues, I remember saying, "Oh, what a fucking waste of talent! What's he doing? Why is he
yeah,
throwing his career away?" And you don't think at the time to go, there might be something else going on here. And it wasn't until the Gary Neville interview I was like, Jesus Christ, there was something going on. and
Yeah,
you can sort of see why. And I think Everton are doing a great job in managing his mental health now and trying to get him back to where he was, because he was a fantastic football player. Some of the goals he scored against United,
yeah, brilliant, brilliant.
outrageous.
And you hope that he's sort of, like you say there, you never know what's going on behind the scenes, do you? And sort of
No.
a lot of people thinking, what's happened, where's he gone? And when he says what he says, and obviously has dealt with so much in the past, you just hope that now he gets himself fit and back into the Everton team, because like you say, he's like a wonderful footballer when he's fully fit.
Yeah, he definitely is. And there's so many like that. Again, as much as I'm on Ten Hag's side with what he did, another one, Jadon Sancho. He's a fantastic talent. He's a talented football player. There's a lot going on with him, whether it's his attitude towards training and things like that. I don't know. I'm not in the training sessions with him. But he had so much potential to do wonderful things at Manchester United, and it
Yeah,
just and even he's come on for Dortmund on the weekend and got an assist. It's like, what it boggles me why people can't put the same effort in. I don't know if it's down to the manager's tactics or what, but it seems like there's so many players that I've seen that have all the talent. They go into Manchester United and it all seems to just fizzle out. Pogba's another one. I've seen Paul
yeah,
Pogba play some absolutely fantastic games of football for Manchester United, but then you watch him when he played for Juventus, and you're like, that's a completely different player.
no, it is. I think like sometimes it's the right place, right time. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sort of fit into a structure. Obviously, Jadon was incredible for Borussia Dortmund. That's why he got the move to Manchester United, but it's never really been able to settle and find
yeah,
consistency in the game. There was obviously issues with the manager that you don't know what's happened there behind closed doors. You want him to have a brilliant career because he is a special talent, whether that's at Manchester United or it is elsewhere. And obviously he's gone back to somewhere where he of course feels loved because he was beforehand, and like you say, he sort of made an
yeah, yeah.
impact from his first
It,
game
it
back.
it does seem like he's the type of player that he doesn't need the strict disciplinarian. He needs somebody to put his arm around him and go, "Come on, mate, you've got this." As you said, needs to feel loved, because I think the fans wanted him to be what we expected him to be, and showed him a lot of appreciation when he came back from his trip to Holland to
Yeah,
after he sorted his head out. The applause he got when he came on, even the manager even was all love him to him when he came on. It's just bizarre. It's bizarre to me, in my opinion. But I'm not a professional football player. I don't know the ins and outs of all that sort of stuff. I don't know the pressure these days must be incredible. It must have been hard enough in your day, but nowadays, as we said, with everything online, you've got
yeah,
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and then you've got people. For example, Harry Maguire. He's a meme. Like, he must hate like making one mistake. That's someone who's made a 4-minute video of all his mistakes. It's like,
yeah. I mean, it is.
he's a good centre half.
Oh, 100%. I think
You,
and
you,
that, I think that shows his sort of resilience. Obviously, suffered an injury, but came back and was probably
yeah.
United's
Oh,
best player before getting
yeah.
the
Agree. Totally
injury.
agree. Totally agree. And again, and we'll use Sancho as another as an example as well. There's players that have been in Ten Hag's bad books. Diego Dallo when he first got there, Maguire, Varane at one point. All these
Yeah,
players could have spat their dummies out and gone, well, I don't want to play then, but they haven't. They got their heads down and worked hard in training, worked hard when they got their opportunity, and they've been some of the better players. Like, I think statistically, going back to the stats, that we agree that we don't really care about the stats. But Diego Dallo is one of the most consistent players that we've got at the minute. At one point,
yeah,
they were talking about selling him. Wan-Bissaka's
yeah. And I
another
think
one.
that is so many sort of variables to it, isn't there? I think what a massive challenge for Ten Hag has been finding the right 11, not always sort of
Mm.
on form, sometimes so many injuries and that, and there's not been that sort of consistency. And a lot of people say there's no sort of set style. You can't really see the
Yeah.
brand of football and what they're trying to do. But it must be so hard to do that when you're constantly changing personnel and there's different
Yeah.
players coming. Not an excuse, because you still think a club like Manchester United should be doing a lot better than they are. But you do feel if they do find some consistency within team selection, then results will
Yeah.
follow suit
I
and improve.
I totally agree, because we haven't got a bad squad. We've had a lot of injuries. I think we've had 10 separate back fours.
Yeah, incredible.
That's crazy in itself. And I think the keeper needs to find his feet a bit more and be a bit more. I don't really know. I'm still torn on the goalkeeper, if I'm honest. I don't think we should have got rid of De Gea personally.
Yeah, I
But
think
any,
like on that, I think like in terms, De Gea was an incredible servant at United. Like won the
yeah,
Player of the Year countless times, very consistent. I think in terms of the way that Ten Hag wants to play, and he's not going to change
yeah,
on sort of playing
I
out
totally agree with that. Yeah,
where De Gea probably wasn't that adept with his feet in terms of playing short and sort of not.
which is strange, because when Sir Alex bought him, he was one of the better keepers in the league with his feet,
Yeah,
which is, I think, one of the reasons why Fergie bought him, was because he was so good with his feet. He's a fantastic shot stopper. He was shit on crosses. I remember that. I remember watching him. I think it was against West Brom or someone like that, because he got dropped for a number of games,
yeah,
and it was basically because he just wasn't strong enough.
yeah.
It's a different league, isn't it?
Yeah, I think as well with that just shows how much the game has evolved in the time that De Gea has been in the
Yeah,
Premier League, because now, like as you say, really one of the better goalkeepers with his feet when he came, and that by the time his time at United came to an end, you've got sort of unfortunately the fella
yeah,
at City who's so good, and that's the
yeah,
level now. And Nana's incredible with his feet, not been brilliant as an actual goalkeeper so far, but you feel like the style that Ten Hag plays, that he has been a massive part of that, trying to play out from the back and
yeah.
sort of finding
Definitely,
passes.
definitely. So you took a full circle. Obviously, you're from Cambridge. You finished your career at Cambridge, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the team that I supported growing up. So it was
That must have been amazing.
incredible. Yeah, to do it was something that I'm incredibly sort of proud of. It's something that I said I'd always do, was to finish my career and play for Cambridge United, a team that I watched growing up. So to actually do it is something that I'm delighted that I've done.
Yeah, that must be up there with some of the achievements that you had. Obviously, Player of the Year at MK Dons, the Premier League winners medal, which is incredible. And then obviously finishing your career at your boyhood club must be up there.
Yeah, I think in terms of obviously being a Manchester United player, when I look back now, it's sort of still sort of pinch myself to actually that I've done it, to won a Premier League medal is incredible. But probably as a young man, didn't appreciate it as much as I would have as an older guy, and like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what Cambridge was. It was the end of my career, and I was able to appreciate it because I'd sort of had the career that I'd had, and then it was ending sort of Roy of the Rovers style, where I wanted it to at the club that I supported, and then playing against Man
yeah.
United in the
I was about
FA
to say,
Cup at Old
yeah.
Trafford. It was like memories that are so precious to have been able to do that.
Did you get a nice warm welcome when you came back to Old Trafford?
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever gone back as a player. I'd never played against Man United for the other clubs that I played for. And I generally didn't know if anyone would even remember who I was. It had been so long. But when I remember playing in the game, I certainly didn't play particularly well. We got substituted when we were 3-0 down, I think, with about half hour to go, and got a standing ovation from the Cambridge and the Man United fans at Old Trafford. And that one of them moments where the hairs on the back stand up. It was like incredible to get that, and something I'm very, very grateful for as well.
Yeah, I bet that must have been brilliant, because obviously you're finishing your career at Cambridge. You managed to go back to United as an opponent, and still get the plaudits from the fans, because the fans don't forget. If you're a loyal player, you love the club, you've come through the ranks like yourself. If you haven't basically shit on the fans and the club, you'll always be welcome and loved. I think there's only a handful of players that I've ever seen get like an
Yeah.
aggressive return. One of them being Di Maria from PSG,
Yeah.
the snake. Um, but yeah, you know, you'll always be loved by United. I think the club and the fans especially. I know the fans get a lot of shit. You get a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're a glory hunter. You're a." It's like, well, I'm not anymore. But yeah, you know, that's what I used to get as a kid because I'm from Hereford originally. And growing up, they're like, "Oh, why'd you support Man United? Is it because they win everything?" It's like, well, yeah, but no. My dad was a Man United fan, and when my granddad was stationed out in Malaya, I believe, it was either Malaya or Malaysia. I'm not 100% sure. The only football team they heard of was Manchester United. Funnily enough, my actual grandparents were Arsenal fans, so I don't know why he didn't follow in their footsteps. But he saw them. He fell in love with the likes of George Best, Bobby Charlton, God rest their souls, and yeah, he sort of passed that on to me. My brother, on the other hand, was like, "No, I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. I'm going to support Arsenal." But yeah, so I always got, "Oh, you're a glory hunter." No, I'm not. Or I used to always get, "How many times you been to Old Trafford?" And during the 90s, I was like, quite a lot actually. But yeah, it's great, and obviously what you're doing now is a fantastic project.
Yeah, so when I sort of finished playing, when my career came to an end, it was like a really challenging time in terms of sort of probably not prepared for my football
Yeah,
career and not knowing what I was going to do next. Sort of lost a lot of identity of always
I
being
know,
known as
I
a
I
footballer.
know exactly how you feel about that. Being a military man, when
Yeah,
I
no,
when
I
I
get
left the
that.
military, I was like, I don't know what to do. I
I
went
get
to you're quite lucky. You went into the football side. I literally went. I don't know how to transfer my skills into anything else.
yeah.
So I ended up doing security. That was the closest thing that I could do.
Yeah, and I completely understand, but like similar for anyone who's been
Yeah, yeah,
in the same career for a long period of time, then that comes to an end. Sort of went down the coaching route, done all my coaching qualifications because I wasn't that passionate about coaching, but I thought that's what old footballers do.
yeah,
Got a
yeah,
job at Cambridge within the academy with the young players and never didn't enjoy it. I didn't. There was great parts to the job, but I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy going to work every day. I knew it wasn't something that I'd do for the rest of my life. At the same time, a couple of colleagues of mine, James Cutting and Johnny Martin, were moving away from the club and starting the Football Fun Factory. It sort of spoke to them about it and sort of fell in love with the idea, the opportunity to sort of coach football and see children play football purely for fun. It reminded me so much of when I started playing as
yeah,
a 7, 8 year old. It weren't to become a professional footballer. It was because I love knocking about with my mates. I love
yeah,
playing
yeah,
with them. And that's what the Football Fun Factory is, like giving children of all abilities the opportunity to play just for enjoyment in a pressure-free environment and using football because it is such a powerful tool as a vehicle
yeah.
to develop positive life skills just as much as football skills. So it's a really rewarding organisation to be involved in. I've loved it, to be fair, since coming on board.
I love that. I genuinely love that. So my youngest plays football. She's actually quite a good little player. She doesn't really believe in herself very much, and
Yeah.
she yeah, she's a pain in the ass because when she's at football, she loves it. Getting
Yeah.
her to go to football,
Oh, yeah, I get that. I know what you're
and
saying.
I'm at the stage where I'm sort of I want her to go because I don't want to let her teams down, but also I don't want to force her and then her
No,
fall
yeah.
out of love with it. I'm like I don't want because she doesn't like watching football. She hates watching it.
Yeah, just
Try to get her
playing.
to sit, trying to get her to sit down and watch a game. She's like, nah, fuck off, dad. Um, even well, she broke my heart. So she used to be a Man United fan. Me and my dad used to get her the kits and all that, and then she
Moved
sat and
over.
had a sit in a chat with my brother-in-laws, and all of a sudden she is now an Arsenal fan.
Arsenal flipping egg.
And I was like, for fuck's sake. But my eldest is still, don't worry, Dad, I'm a United fan. I'm like, yeah, of
Yeah,
course you
stick with you.
are. Of course you are. But yeah, trying to get her to go. Like tonight, she's got football training tonight, so hopefully I don't get all the rigmarole behind it all.
What age is she, Tommo?
She's 9, so she's under 10s.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant.
but she doesn't even realise how good a defender she is. So she plays in midfield. She's not the greatest passer of the ball. She still sort of stabs at the ball a little bit. She doesn't quite kick it properly. I call it a golf club leg. But
Yeah.
anyway, but when she actually she sometimes goes back into centre half, which going back to old school, I don't think she's quite tall enough to be a centre half, but they're only playing 7-a-side, so it doesn't really matter. But the way she defends is she will shadow the player until they basically run out of space, and the ball either goes out for a throw in and I'm like, you have no idea how perfect defending that is. To make someone lose the ball without actually putting in a tackle. She's like, but I didn't do anything. I went, but you did.
Yeah.
I went, fuck. Maldini used to say the best art of defending is not making a tackle.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay. But yeah, some of the games she plays, I unfortunately, because of my work commitments, I don't get to watch as much as I want. But I watch her training sessions more than anything else. But I'm that typical dad that's played football at a decent-ish level. So I'm watching some of these coaches. I'm like, well, you get them to do something else. Like last week, they were literally he was the coach was doing the right thing. He's trying to teach him about space on the pitch, not to huddle up, find some space on the pitch. But you could see that the girls were getting bored and not really paying attention. And I was like, you've got to either split the group down, have another coach take them on, I don't know, a shooting drill or a passing drill, and then the other one take them through that. That way, they're all engaged. They're especially these days.
Yeah,
Their minds are everywhere.
Thing, isn't it? I think that's what it's all about, engagement, isn't it? And regardless whether they're sort of getting anything out of it, you're trying to impart as much knowledge as you can, but unless the children are engaged, they're not going to take that knowledge on board, and they're not going to enjoy it more than anything else. I think that's the most important thing, where I think at times as coaches we can take it too seriously and try to put so many coaching points out, when in reality success of a training session is all the kids having fun.
Having fun. Yeah, definitely.
With a smile on their face.
Definitely. You touched on a very good point a second ago when you were talking about the your project that you're doing, and it's about how football can teach you. Well, it can teach you all the life lessons, really,
100%,
and how it helps benefit mental health and things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I started my sort of side project, which is my charity football team that I run. Funnily enough, FC Granite Zero. And basically, we support a cause called Rock to Recovery, who help with veterans of blue light services and military deal with physical and mental sort of health problems, along with a touch of financial problems. But I don't know that side. I know the physical and mental health. And when I started the team, I was like, this is brilliant, because one thing I missed most about football is the locker room. Is the changing rooms, the banter, the enjoyment of. We used to go down the local pitch and just have a kickabout, just to start it off, get our legs back into football mode, because that is a different fitness, by the way, people. We and just being in the changing room with the lads is something else, and it just lifts you straight away into it. Well, for me, it transported me back to. I started men's football when I was 14. Because basically, I fell out with my local manager for my under 15s or under 16s team, and my dad went, "Oh, you can come and play with Matty Priest, who's a bloke that runs one of the local teams." And I was all right, and he put me on. He went, "How old are you?" I went, 14. He went, "Well, today you're 16." So we basically had to lie. and that changed me forever. Just being in that environment, especially with the blokes, it's slightly different when you in the kids' locker room, but
Yeah,
in the men's, I was like, oh, these guys are all swearing.
yeah. It doesn't.
This is
It
crazy.
doesn't.
But, yeah, but it's brilliant.
I
And
think
yeah,
that's it, though, isn't it, Tom? I think the like the social outcomes are so more powerful usually than the
oh,
actual
definitely,
game,
oh,
the
definitely.
football outcomes that come with it.
Yeah. So the first game we put on was against Spurs legends, um, and they genuinely were legends. I took the piss at me. My buddy Chris, who's a Spurs fan, he was loving it. He could tell you every player. I was like, Chris, I didn't even know Spurs had legends, mate. I don't. I was like, where's Teddy Sheringham? Where's But yeah, that was it. But you could also tell that they played
Yeah.
that level. We were chasing shadows at some point. Some of these blokes were, well, almost 60, probably. Yeah, well, at least late 50s. A lot of them. They were just passing through us. They
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
They were a bit cheeky though. They did have one of their youth. They had a youth goalkeeper in.
Oh, flipping heck.
Who I smashed the ball and it was headed into the stanchion. It was a screamer, and he just tipped it
Made a
over.
worldie.
And I was like, this is a fucking piss take. And they had I jokingly said he's not the real Mark Hughes, but they had Mark Hughes who had literally just retired, I think, and
Okay.
he was whipping around still, and I was like, this is a joke. But yeah, at the end of it, it was literally just after lockdown. Funnily enough, we played just before England kicked off for the Euros final, so we had a fucking
Okay.
hell of a night out. Hell of
I
a
could
night
have.
out. And then the second game we had was against Sands. These guys here, fantastic charity, fantastic cause. They they took the piss a little bit. They had some of their regular players in, where we're sort of scattered about the country and we sort of play in one game. But it was a hell of a game, hell of a get together. And at the end of it, we got battered. Don't get me wrong, 9-0, I think it was. We haven't scored yet, which is not very good for me, considering I'm supposed to be the forward. But yeah, but at the end of the day, as you said, the result doesn't matter.
No.
We're there for a reason. That's to raise money for these causes, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
That's
And
brilliant.
jokingly aside, before I let you go, because I know you got another call coming up. The lad said to me, and he went, "Oh, you got to ask him if he's available for the 4th of May."
Have you got you got another game coming
Yeah,
up?
we got another game coming up. It's we're representing two military charities, Rock to Recovery and Pilgrim Bandits. And basically what we're doing is my hometown, Hereford, one of the lads who played in my last game, Biffo, he's a big character. He's a proper guy that you want in the changing room.
Yeah, yeah.
He's his man management skills are second to none when it comes to helping the lads and motivating the lads. He's brilliant tactically, yeah, but that sort of thing. He's a top bloke, and he was like, I would love to organise a game with you. And so it's basically legends of Hereford football. So all the lads that played in the local Prem sides, and some of them played a bit higher up in the Hellenic League and stuff like that. They're playing my group of misfits. Some of us veterans of the military and blue light who who are running around, and they were like, "Cool. Do you fancy asking Chadders if he fancies a game?" I was like, "I can ask him. I can ask him."
You haven't exactly sold it to me, Tommo, with the results that you've had so far.
Hey,
But if you
it was only 6-0. It was only 6-0 against
fix it.
Spurs.
If you drop me a message and I'll let you know, mate. I'm not
Yeah,
100%
yeah.
sure of like
Nah, I
what.
thought you got to ask, and yeah, you got to ask. Don't ask, don't get.
Yeah, I don't know
Funny
how
enough.
much if I am available. I don't know how much help I'll be. The old legs that went a couple of years ago.
No, put it this way: in the first game against Spurs, my old man actually played. He's our oldest player, and my dad, fair to him, he played a decent level growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He played for some teams. Can't think off the top of my head. Doncaster Rovers he played for. He played for
Oh, listen.
Kidderminster Harriers. he had trials with Chelsea, West Ham, all that as a kid. And I believe he said that he was supposed to go to Watford, and I can't remember the manager he was supposed to take. But funnily enough, the money side of it, he was actually going to get paid more to join the Air Force, which is what he did, than to play football. So he did that. But anyway, long story short, he played. His dream was always to play alongside me and my brother. He played alongside my brother. And at 71 years old, I walked out with my old man behind me and then my brother behind him, and I was like, "This is brilliant." Which is why Spurs took the lead, because they lobbed him. He made some worldy saves in the warm up, and I think he done himself in, and he got lobbed, and I remember it. So he got lobbed. He's going to hate me for saying this. So he got lobbed, and as soon as the ball went over his head, you could see him walking off. He was like, "No, I'm coming off." But yeah, it was brilliant. But yeah, I'll ping you a message if you're available. You feel free to join us. But
if not, a message yet.
Yeah, if not, yeah. I did once. I managed to get hold of Ben Thornley. And we were going to do. I was trying to get my team versus Manchester United legends. Yeah. Until he told me the price.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, "You do know we're doing this for charity?" Yeah, it was extortionate. I was like, "Okay, we might not." And some of it, and me being me, I was like, "Well, at that price, I would like at least 4 of the treble winning side in there." But anyway, Luke, genuinely, thank you very much for your time. It's been my privilege and my honour to have you on as a United fan. It's great to have a United player on
no worries at all. No worries, Tom. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, mate.
No, cheers. And you have a good rest of your day, and don't work too hard.
No, I won't. Don't worry about that.
Right, be careful. Stay safe.
Take care, mate.
Hello. You're at the adverts, so don't turn off. Don't turn off, because I've got some good stuff for you. First up, I'm going to talk about our sponsors. Kent CBD is our first sponsor. Now, CBD oil, as you know, has tremendous benefits, especially within mental health and physical health. Personally, I use it to help with my anxiety and my depression, but not only that, I also use it to help with the aches and pains of life in my joints, especially my ankles and my knees. But yeah, without CBD oil, I would have still been on my antidepressant tablets, which I'm no longer on. So, every cloud. And what we're going to do here at Granite Zero is we're going to give you 10% off everything from oil, muscle rub, jellies, bath salts, the lot. Yeah? Make sure you get in there. www.kentcbd.org. Put in the promo code GRANITE0 and get yourself 10% off. You are welcome. But also, if you're like me and you love a nice cup of coffee. Now, for me, I only drink one coffee, and that's Green Beret coffee. Now, I don't only drink it because it's out of this world fucking coffee, roast to order, grinded to whatever specific grind you want. But not only that, it's veteran owned and veteran run, which, hits me right in the feels. So make sure you check it out, Green Beret Coffee. Get yourself a nice cup of coffee. I drink it dark, just like my soul. Incredible stuff, incredible stuff. And what I'm going to give for you, I'm going to give you 10% off. So once you get to the checkout, once you've got all your coffee, your products, your apparel, whatever you need, get to the checkout and put in the promo code GZPodcast10 and get yourself 10% off. Courtesy of the Granite Zero podcast. You are welcome. Now, that's enough of me talking about this stuff. Back to the regular scheduled show. Check it out!